In any large organization, there'll be a portfolio of applications, sometimes ranging in the hundreds, based on technologies in the hundreds or even the thousands. Managing those and understanding the life cycle of the applications and the technologies is a core activity of an IT organization and of an architecture team. But it's also a difficult one. My name is Martin Sykes. I've been a chief architect in many organizations over the last 20 years, and this sort of activity is one I've done over and over again. It can't be done in isolation in the IT organization. It has to be done in partnership with the owners of the business capabilities and the applications to really understand what they need from the systems that they use to run their business. But preparing the information to have that sort of a conversation is a fairly substantial task. So in this scenario, we're going to look at the situation where the business leads, the CIO, the architecture team, perhaps the enterprise architect, gather together to review, based on perhaps an annual cycle, getting ready for budget submissions, exactly what they want to do with their application and technology portfolio. We start with the business looking at the particular capabilities of interest to them. And this may mean that it's only the business owner for a core capability we want to start with. Here, we'll look at one called trading systems. And we use that trading systems capability to give us our first filter on the data. And that filter is part of the strategic portfolio management solution within iServer that allows us to have a dashboard to drill into that information. Immediately after filtering, you can see on the left here the sets of applications that are relevant to this capability. In the upper right, we have that there are just 15 applications here that are filtered according to a retirement date window and a vendor support window, both easily updatable depending on the timeline within the planning activity we're doing. We can also see the related business concepts. So we've picked one capability, but that capability may be related to many others in the organization, functions, organizational units, or processes. And depending where the conversation takes us, we can filter on these as well to be able to drill down to understand overlaps between applications or key areas that our business partners want to look at. But first of all, let me bring your attention to the first item we have on the list, Provia. And its current life cycle is looking like we've got a problem. Let's drill in to find out where that problem is. I want to understand why Provia has been lit up on the chart. So we go to the Application Technology Lifecycle dashboard and type Provia into the search box on the left. This immediately filters down to just those solutions related to Provia, and here we can see there are two, Optima X and Provia BioWare. With those two, there are many lines. That's because those applications have multiple technologies that support them. And it's in particular one technology here that's giving us the problem, which is Crystal Reports that's been embedded in the solution that we can clearly see is now going to be retired in the window that we're looking at. Crystal Reports is just one of what could be many technologies listed here. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to drill down on this one technology, and we're going to see how we can understand that in the context of both this application and what else it might impact across the organization. So here we now go into the Crystal Report technology screen simply by selecting it, and this takes us into another dashboard. So here you can see with Crystal Reports, on the left-hand side of the screen, the technology cost, data that's been entered into iServer so we understand what it actually costs us today to run this solution. And in the center, if it's appropriate for this particular technology stack, where it's used around the world. Importantly, on the bottom, we have what we already know about our internal life cycle for this technology, decisions that have been made in previous years, and the vendor life cycle. That vendor lifecycle information can be updated automatically with a data feed into iServer from Technopedia, thereby giving us clear, credible information from a trusted source about all the technologies we use at minimal effort. So we take that information and we could now go straight back to look at, say, well, let's understand what to do with Crystal Reports just for that one application in Provia. But there's a problem with that. Crystal Reports is used elsewhere in the organization. We can see that in the upper right. There are 4 applications in total that use Crystal Reports, impacting 5 different business capabilities. Now is the time to test. Are we going to use Crystal Reports differently for the future, across not just one application, but all of those? And what will that mean impact those capabilities? We can understand that a little bit more by drilling into another dashboard. So to help us have the conversation across the organization, we now drill into the Application Impact Lifecycle dashboard. And with this, we can filter on the left to pick the Crystal Reports technology. We could pick any others that are also relevant. For example, if there were other reporting technologies in the organization, we could select those and do a comparison between Crystal Reports and those technologies at the same time. That might tell us whether it was effective for us to be able to replace Crystal Reports with a different reporting technology, or whether we're looking to upgrade Crystal Reports itself. So it further helps us with the conversation. But on the bottom half of the screen here, you can see the applications that are using Crystal Reports. And with that, those 4 applications that were just listed on the previous screen, we now have clarity of their roadmaps. And we can see that 2 of them are already into the retirement phase. This limits our exposure to Crystal Reports in the organization, and we can clearly focus on just those top 2, where we might have some impact as this technology becomes out of date. So we started at the top with a capability, went down from that to look at the applications, went down from that to understand the technologies that were driving the life cycle for those applications, and have now had a conversation about what to do with the technologies that are becoming out of date for the organization and will have an impact for us. This whole process repeats over and over again as we go through the applications in that capability, and we also go out from those technologies we identify to look across the rest of the organization for the impact to them. It's a process that can take many hours, if not many days, depending on the size of the portfolio. But as we get to the end of it, we now have updates to our application roadmaps, and it's those updates that we can then publish for the organization. On the application Gantt chart dashboard, we can filter by the applications in the organization and quickly see the updated roadmaps for them. Now that information is really easy to see here. It's a dashboard view. It's live, straight out of the database. We could also view all sorts of technologies at the same time. This sort of information can take quite a while to put together using iServer, where you're putting it onto the Visio sheets, but it's instantaneous when we now have it available to us in the dashboards, and it's a great way to be able to wrap up workshops or to have those final reviews of the application life cycles for the organization. I mentioned at the start that this is a process I've done many times over the years. I didn't mention at the start just how tedious and time-consuming this process can be. When you have hundreds of applications on thousands of technologies in a large organization, this takes a lot of time and effort. That's been difficult, especially when you've got data sets in iServer and the models with them that can often take a while to navigate around. Everything has changed with SPM. The dashboards and the live ability to interrogate them and quickly move between them allows us to have those conversations with the business leads and the folks in the technology organization very quickly, and to be able to see the impact of a technology change across the estate. That's a game changer, but it's not a game changer you're going to be able to really appreciate just by listening to me on this video. So I definitely recommend you contact Orbis and have an iServer consultant show you just how easy it is to do this mapping today.